I'm going to let Sasha go into his whole background. You guys probably know the laundry list of alphabetic letters behind his name. He's done a lot of things. I just am just waiting to hear the amazing message from you today. Thank you. Hi, friends. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to see that I'm protected from all of you by a CDC anti-Fauci approved mask. Excellent. You may have heard we all came down with a bit of a lurgy in the last week, and today's the first day that we're all on our feet, so it feels pretty good. A little bit dizzy, but good. A little historical fact that I figured you might all enjoy. Let me just say to your state senator, Adrian Southworth, you're fantastic. My kind of political animal. And your father, well, you got a good start with that man, for sure. You're blessed. And Andrew, that man is fantastic. Just so delightful to be amongst sane, cogent voices. So a little historical fact here I figured you might all enjoy. Do you know how we used to deal with treason back in the day?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, we used to take them out into the market square. We used to hang them by the neck until dead.
We need to return to that.
And that is not such a shocking thing for us to consider, because when I put my telephone on to check my emails, these alerts come up and remind me constantly, courtesy of some invisible authority, that 450 trillion people have died of COVID and 312 trillion people are suffering from it. All of it lies, abject lies. Any human being with a IQ higher than a mung bean knows that this is bullshit of the highest order of magnitude. But you see, that doesn't matter, because we've lurched into the twilight zone as a species. Here we are. We've lurched into this strange space where facts mean nothing, where truth is the greatest casualty of all, and where we are saluted and we're rewarded for participating in satanic, luciferic nonsense. We're living in a rather tawdry vaudeville roundabout now. And those of us who see that and know that are the blessed ones. We are the meek. Let's inherit the earth. And it's not necessarily going to be an easy transition. It's pretty clear to me now that much of my own ideas about how this transition would happen are wrong. It's, in a sense, worse than I thought, because I'm truly now looking around me and I'm beginning to make peace with the fact that we might be kissing goodbye to a huge part of the human family in the days ahead. I think we have to prepare ourselves. I'm not a sensationalist, but I do know what's inside this lethal cocktail of synthetic molecules masquerading as a vaccine. I've spent the last 18 months, I've done over 1,000 interviews, been interviewed and interviewed incidentally in the last 18 months, which is a formidable amount of wheezing and talking. But I've done it for good reason. I've met with dozens, scores of the world's leading epidemiologists and virologists and retrovirologists and forensic analysts. I've conducted multiple sittings in the International Tribunal for Natural Justice, and we've done hearings on COVID and on weaponization of the biosphere, which is what COVID is a part of. In fact, it was in 2019 in Bali at my home that I hosted the World Health Sovereignty Summit, the first one, and invited at that time Del Bigtree came out, G. Edward Griffin, Dr. Robert O. Young. We had so many great and good folks came out for that. Great heroes. And subsequent to that, I've worked with most of the rest of the great heroes on the front line of truth and disclosure as it relates to public health administration and so on. Fact of the matter is that for a layman and a long-haired shock poet, I'm very fortunate that I've been able to hear firsthand from these extraordinary people, I've got a pretty clear idea what's going on. It's not just about sterilization. It's not just about genocide. It's not just about the ruling elite wanting to keep population to something like 500 million out of 7 billion souls. All of that is variously true. What the good Dr. Gilbert referred to earlier, speaking about the sequestration of true knowledge and how things have been kept away, you know, the true knowledge. Everything is about frequency. I agree with you 1,000% on that. The fact of the matter is, friends, that all of the artifice of our lives, of our reality, has been constructed on blood cultism, ritualism, all of it. The sacrifice of innocence and the harvest of humanity is at the cornerstone of all of this weird twilight zone that we're living through now. So if we're serious about wanting to navigate through this weirdness, this valley of death, and come through to the other side, we're going to have to address some of the principles that lie within this alchemization process, because it is an alchemization that's happening right now. That's why things feel so weird, because up is down and left is right. And if I want a green card, I probably have to marry a rainbow-colored unicorn, and I stand more chance of getting it than being a good human knocking on the front door. Everything's weird. Everything's upside down. We have to address the role that each of us play in the status quo. And I think I should pull a blind down, allow our political friend to not hear this, but my suggestion is that everybody stop paying coin to Caesar so long as Caesar is committing treason. And I've been warned so many times by very powerful people. Those of you who know my work know that I've met with hundreds of kings and queens and prime ministers and presidents and all that crap. And I've done it for a quarter of a century. I'm pretty practiced at speaking truth to power. And I'm also very practiced at understanding the humanity that exists in power as well. After you've exchanged fire in the eyes with good leadership, there's not many of them, but there's enough of them. And they've always needed good humans to stand up grassroots to reclaim our sovereignty. The power exists here, always did, always did. The point is, paying coin to Caesar is you handing your life force over to the creature. And we need to look at even this stadium, and thank you for the stadium for availing itself to us today. But this is a place of harvest, of energy. You can prove this out. You can prove it out and measure it using certain technologies. But when you've got people in football stadiums or baseball stadiums or horse racing arenas or rock and roll stadiums or cathedrals or synagogues, churches all around the world, these are places of harvest. They are supposed to be places of congregation, and when they work, that's exactly what they are. But all too often, we're being subsumed and pulled into these vortices, these vortexes of energy harvesting. Most people are addicted, they have appetites, and we simply follow our appetites. We lurch from the refrigerator to the football stadium, to the television screen, to whatever dirty habits turn us on. And that's been going on for a long time. So consumerism has been the blight of the modern generation, because that was where they threw bread and circuses at us. That's just like what the Romans did back in the day when they were losing their empire and they built the Colosseum. That was designed to resurrect a failing business model. It was very clever. And then they started feeding the Christians to the lions, and that was a hot ticket. And then they started sending the gladiators against the gladiators. Then they started feeding the gladiators to the lions. Then they fed the lions, until what? Until Rome fell. Capitalism is bread and circuses. The pornography of trivia that our kids are addicted to and that we are addicted to is bread and circuses. That's how we abnegate our soul sovereignty. That's how we step away from the soul covenant. That is how we move against our divinity. Each of us. We've made that mistake, friends. Jointly and severally, we've made that mistake. And that is what equates to government in the 21st century. Because the more we surrender and abnegate our sovereignty, our consciousness, and our conscience, what emerges is the other. It's a natural way that the universe works. It fills a vacuum. What I'm trying to get at in the alchemy of reality is that once we reclaim that divine spark, take it back and own it individually, this is where my will be done must align with thy will be done. And when that happens, you start to fill that void. That void becomes filled with the Christed light, which is our supernature, which is what we were born to. We were not born to be harvested. We were not born to be laid to waste as a species by a clutch of deviant, blood ritualistic, satanic sociopaths who have absolutely taken control of the planetary power apparatus. They've absolutely taken control of it. But it is a clunky machine that is falling apart in any event.
Right.
And it's almost as though it doesn't matter. They can have Capitol Hill. They can have Buckingham Palace. They can have the Vatican complex. They can have the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. They can have all of the rotten apparatus that was their bad dream in the first place. Let them have it. But do not participate in it. Do not pay into it. Do not place your God-given plasma, your attention, your life force on it. That is how the creature has harvested us for thousands of years. I could lecture for hours on the beast of the sea and how the Phoenicians and the Sumerians and the Babylonians coursed through history and brought us through the Romans, the Caesars of Rome, all the way through Doomsday, and then to the crowns of Europe and the Vatican complex and the Jesuits, and how they infiltrated the bedchambers of the kings and queens all around the world, creating the genesis of the CIA deep state, stealing information, blackmailing, extortion, dirty, dirty tricks amongst the so-called black nobility. These people are still alive. Many of them. I've met some of them, just so you know. And there is a sea change taking place even amongst those bloodlines. On multiple occasions in the last few years, I've been asked to meet some of these key individuals, the younger generation, who have told me over the silver service dining table in their private mansions, they have told me that they are not any longer participating in the blood compacts. They've told me that they have stood down. It's not as easy as that, though. And I've said to them, you need to do more than just that. To not participate in the blood compacts and accept the Masonic nonsense, those titular ermine stoles and all the things that are being offered to you, the heraldry and the cloak and dagger. That's good to step back from that ritualistic black magic. That's one thing. But it's more than that. You need to step away from the money, baby. The trust fund. That is the contaminant. You need to step away from that and hand that back. And you see, this is where it's a problem for a lot of these old dynastic lineages. They can't walk away from the money, from the trust fund. Now actually that's all being rejigged anyway, because those trust funds will be worth nothing in the fullness of time. But I'm just giving you a little bit here because I'm not in a shrieking mood today, feeling a bit fragile still. I just wanted to give a little bit of hope about the fact that there is an alchemization taking place in the basement amongst the highest echelon of power. And as I've been saying on this tour for the last couple of months, we must be careful not to continue to enmitize or demonize the other humans. So I want to tail off by speaking a little to America, to you guys, who you are, and why you are so fucking special. And I'll explain why. Because you truly are the galactic hybrid. If this whole planet is made up of thousands of different genome expressions, which it is incidentally, thousands. There are thousands of different tribes. I commissioned a study with the University of Georgia, Atlanta, 20 years ago. I commissioned a study to identify all the different tribes on Earth. We got to 1,000 after a year and stopped the study. And the criteria that I put forward for that study, because I wanted to know about the diversity of the human family. And the criteria I put forward was each tribe would have to have a different god, a different song, and a different dance. And that was the criteria, a different language, forgive me. And that was the criteria. We reached 1,000, can you believe it? And then the cultural anthropologist professor, who's one of the most advanced academics in the world to this day, speaks 26 languages, and he said to me, we've reached 1,000 and there's still more. So that was 20 years ago, 1999, 2000. And I was aware of how diverse the human family was. The more I looked to North America and the more I studied arcane history and the Babylonian Mysterium cult as it relates to the invisible hand, the creature that's been harvesting us by stealth through engineered monotheistic religiosity and through cultural programming and all of that stuff, the more I began to realize that America, North Americans are the true hybrid. Because you people just smile and beam and you mean it when you say have a great day. You mean it. And I think that's remarkable. Just the sheer degree of common decency, courtesy, and empathy that exists in Middle America is the sweetest thing in the galaxy.
Thank you, Sasha. We love you, Sasha. Thank you. Thank you, Sasha.
I only say this because when we lose that sweetness, that's when it's over. And I now know, after 2.5 months of running this country 4 times now, and exchanging tens of thousands of spike proteins with all of you. I now know absolutely,
that was me.
And this is my message to the world, and this is the thing I'm going to make in the film I'm making. This is the message, is that not only is humankind alive and well, the Christed light is now activated. It's happening. All of that weirdness, that twilight zone, that satanic Luciferian nonsense is neither here nor there. Whether this is a 2-month or 2-year or 5-year process, friends, it's almost immaterial. But I can tell you this much. The degree to which you and I stand in pure truth and conduct right action in the now is the determining factor. That is all. That is it. So there's nothing to move against conscience. Nothing to move against conscience. And if that's about wearing a pantyhose on your face, say thank you, no thank you. Not doing it. Not gonna do it. Not interested. You want me to roll my sleeve up and you want to put a needle into me? I think not. I think not.
No, no, no.
I would say this to the status quo. I would say this to government. I would say this to the Catholic Church, which is behind your government, just so you know. They own it. And the Crown of England, which owns your government. unless you have a allodial title on your farm or your house. It's owned by the Crown of England. Fact. It goes through the US Treasury, Clearinghouse, Bank of International Settlements, Bank of England, Crown of England, and behind that, the Vatican owns everything, including your tractor and your bicycle. Once you learn that registering your babies to the crown or to the state is offering your babies up for sacrifice. And that's been thus for thousands of years. Friends, it is time to awaken.
Yes.
So I'm going to just finish by, number one, thanking you folks for such a beautiful Pacific vibe. What can I say? But I also want to say this. I would ask you to stand with me, not physically, just psychologically, emotionally. Stand up with me psychologically, and let's look at Yaldabaoth. Let's look at Cronus, the lords of time. Let's look at the government and all of the superstructure, all of the bullshit, the 10 million statues dressed up as laws that are designed to penalize us and terrorize us. Let's look at Bill Gates and Elon Musk, and let's look at Mr. Joseph Biden, that gibbering sock puppet. Let's look at all of the artifice, the fiction out there, and let's stand naked. Let's look at that thing unblinking, and let's invite that thing to track and trace pedophiles and not healthy people.
All right.